Welcome to Jesus Christ Prison Ministry and another video Bible study. Our topic, John, the Light, Part 5. This is based on John 12, verses 12 through 36. The next day, the large crowd that had come to the festival heard that Jesus was coming into Jerusalem. So they took branches of palm trees and went out to meet him, shouting, "Hosanna! How blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord, the King of Israel." Then Jesus found a young donkey and sat upon it, as it is written, "Stop being afraid, people of Zion. Look, your king is coming, sitting on a donkey's colt." How we love a parade. We all want to be part of the crowd, making a noise, waving our flags, and singing our songs. The excitement is wonderful to break up our monotonous lives. That is why we love our churches. We get to go and socialize, show off our new this or that. We talk about ourselves and make ourselves look good. After all, you are not going to church in your curlers and bathrobe, are you? Stop being afraid. The nation of Israel lived in fear. They had rejected the commandments of God. The Jewish leaders feared the Romans. They feared each other. They feared Jesus. Are you living in fear? Then look up. Your king is coming to your rescue. Give him your fears. At first, his disciples didn't understand these things. However, when Jesus had been glorified, they remembered that these things had been written about him and that people had done these things to him. No, at first, at that moment in time, they also were caught up in the excitement. They thought they had hit a home run and that Jesus would be crowned king, and they would move from little fishermen and hated tax collectors into powerful positions in the new government. So the crowd that had been with him when he called Lazarus out of the tomb and raised him from the dead continued to testify to what they had seen. And the crowd was going out to meet him because they had heard that he had performed this sign. None of it had anything to do with their eternal life. They could sing, chant, shout, jump up and down, run, laugh, touch him, praise him, and acclaim him. All they wanted. But it had nothing to do with their eternal life. Same with our churches today. What a waste of time, money, and energy. If you want eternal life, just go home, into your closet, and learn how to be obedient to the teachings of Jesus. Change your character and start living as Jesus commands. Perfect, sinless, and commandment-keeping. Then the Pharisees told one another, "You see, there is nothing you can do. Look, the world has gone after him." Oh yes, just like today, the world has gone after him. But going after him is not the same as being obedient to him. Almost all religions of the world today acknowledge Jesus in some form or another. His name is being accepted by Jews, Muslims, Buddhists, and others. Of course, he was a very good man. We will just sit him alongside our good men if that will make you feel better. Now we can all get along. The world will unite around the name of Jesus, but it will have nothing to do with eternal life. They will do as the Jews of Christ's day did, hunt down and kill those of us who actually obey the teachings of Jesus. Now some Greeks were among those who had come up to worship at the festival. They went to Philip, who was from Bethsaida in Galilee, and told him, "Sir, we would like to see Jesus." I have come to an interesting concept. The world today celebrates the Greek thinkers as the force behind our modern thought and philosophy. However, I have a slightly different take on it. Since all good and all wisdom come from God, I was asking myself how God implanted the wisdom the world bestows upon the Greeks. Then one day I was reading about Solomon, and the light went on. God gave our modern thought and philosophy, medical and scientific knowledge, to Solomon. 990 through 930 BC. The Bible says that kings came from all over the world to hear his wisdom. This was demonstrated in the Queen of Sheba, who came to visit him. I suppose it was more interesting chronicling the visit by a queen than a king. However, I do believe that God gave the world heavenly knowledge through King Solomon also. That knowledge and wisdom eventually was transmitted by the Greeks, Persians, and other nations. Keep in mind, much of the wisdom that may have been written by Solomon may have been destroyed by the conquest of the Babylonians. However, the Greeks and the Persians were continuing to write and transmit the wisdom received by Solomon, which was then transmitted by, among others, Thales of Miletus, 624 to 546 BC, about 300 years after Solomon, who was one of the 7 sages of Greece, and eventually Plato, 425 to 348 BC, about 500 years after Solomon, and on down to the Romans. Not only the sciences, medicine, philosophy, and astronomy, but of course the religious understandings of the temple sacrifices and services. There is a close parallel between the biblical concept of the spiritual warfare taking place between God and Lucifer and the Greek deities. After all, even the Greeks came from the line of Noah, through the line of Japheth, and his telling and retelling of the story of good and evil. But the sacrifices God required of his people were perverted by the heathen worshipers. The Israelites leaving Egypt in the great Exodus was not a secret. The whole world became very aware of the dynamic events played out in that part of the world. The Exodus took place in the mid-1400s BC. By the time the story reached Greece and was told and retold, I have no problem seeing a Greek poet using that experience to influence his writing of the Iliad, 1194 to 1184 BC, and the Trojan Wars. This is a quote. The Greeks are quarreling about whether or not to return Chryseis, a Trojan captive of King Agamemnon, to her father, Chryseis, a priest of Apollo. When Agamemnon refuses and threatens to ransom the girl to her father, the offended Apollo plagues them with a pestilence. That quote is from ancientliterature.com. Does the plot not sound familiar? Egypt is holding the bride of Christ captive, and Christ wants her back. Egypt refuses, and Christ sends them pestilence. Okay, you get the point. So when the wisdom of King Solomon was heard in Greece, I would assume it created quite a stir. Men were sent to hear his wisdom. Solomon would have shared not only the wisdom of the world, but the religious wisdom. Down through the centuries, that wisdom may have been passed on, little by little, so that by the time of Jesus, there were those who were waiting for the coming of the Messiah. Philip went and told Andrew, and Andrew and Philip went and told Jesus. If only we would stop taking people to church and begin taking people to Jesus. What a difference it would make in our world today. Only Jesus can change the heart. Without the Spirit of God in the life, there is nothing church can do to change the life. Only God can change the heart. If church members would stay home and use that time to dig into the Word of God, learning how to live the sinless, perfect, and commandment-keeping life, lives would be changed, and Jesus would come sooner. Jesus told them, "The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Truly, I tell all of you with certainty, unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it produces a lot of grain. The one who loves his life will destroy it, and the one who hates his life in this world will preserve it for eternal life. If anyone serves me, he must follow me, and where I am, there my servant will also be. If anyone serves me, the Father will honor him." We love our lives way too much. We love our churches way, way too much. After all, churches are an extension of our lives. Those who love their lives, their churches, will destroy it. But those who give up their churches and surrender their lives to Jesus will preserve it for the eternal life. You must learn from Jesus how to live his life. No one else can do it for you. Only those who serve Jesus will be honored by the Father. If you are serving a church or denomination, you have no honor from the Father. Now my soul is in turmoil, and what should I say? Father, save me from this hour? No, it was for this very reason that I came to this hour, Father. Glorify your name. Jesus was willing to give his life for you. He gave up his church for you. His life was lived for you to follow. If you are not following it, you cannot follow him into heaven. Then a voice came from heaven. I have glorified it, and I will glorify it again. The Old Testament tells us that a person's word or behavior can only be verified by the witness of two or more witnesses. The Spirit and the Father witnessed to and about his Son at the baptism, on the Mount of Transfiguration, and again here, just before his death. If you want the Father to glorify you in your life, get out of your church and go to Jesus and live as he commands. That is why the Father glorified Jesus. He lived exactly as the Father commanded. He is our example. Who are you following and glorifying? The crowd standing there heard this and said that it was thunder. Others were saying, an angel has spoken to him. Jesus replied, this voice is for your benefit, not for mine. Now is the time for the judgment of this world to begin. Now will the ruler of this world be thrown out. As for me, if I am lifted up from the earth, I will draw all people to myself. He said this to indicate the kind of death he was about to die. The entire world today has been drawn to Jesus, but not all are drawn for the same reason. Just as all were drawn to Jesus during the last 7 days of his earthly life, so now. Some to love him, some to hate him, some to crucify him, and most simply for selfish reasons, what they could get from him. What draws you to Jesus? Then the crowd answered him, we have learned from the law that the Messiah remains forever. So how can you say that the Son of Man must be lifted up? Who is this Son of Man? It is no different today. People are running around quoting from the Bible, but they have never read it in its fullness under the inspiration of the Spirit of God. You can read it all you want, like Lucifer does. But unless you have the Spirit of God, your reading is worse than useless. People, churches, and denominations are getting it all turned around, inside out and upside down. If the Jews had been studying the Scriptures for truth, praying for the guidance of the Spirit of God, and being obedient to the Spirit would have guided them into the proper interpretation, and they would have understood the Messiah's work. The same goes today for the coming of Jesus. People are not properly preparing for it. They are being misled by their churches, pastors, and denominations. Jesus replied to the crowd, "The light is among you only for a short time. Walk while you have the light, so that the darkness may not overtake you. The person who walks in the darkness is in the darkness and does not know where he is going." The churches today are all walking in darkness. Unless they walk in the light, that darkness will overtake them completely, and there will be no escape. They willingly walk in darkness, disobedient to the light of God to stop sinning, be perfect, and to keep the 10 Commandments to get their eternal life. What more can God do? As long as you have the light, believe in the light, so that you may become children of light. After Jesus had said this, he went away and hid from them. There was nothing more he could do. He had to hide himself from them. They desired the darkness of their church to his light. There will come a time when the door of mercy will shut forever on those who claim to be God's children and his remnant. Their grace will be terminated. Unless they come out of their churches and walk with Jesus, it will be too late. Let us follow the dominoes. Jesus commands us to believe in the light so that you may become children of light. He didn't tell us to go to church to become children of light, but to believe in the light. Therefore, let us take a look at this light and see if we are believing and walking in his light. Number 1, Jesus claims to be the truth and the light. John 14:6 and John 8:12. Okay, when that domino falls, number 2, Jesus told us to teach the world everything he commanded us. Matthew 28:20. All right, that domino falls. Number 3, Jesus commanded us to A, be perfect. Matthew 5:48. B, stop sinning. John 8:11 and John 5:14. C, keep the 10 Commandments to get eternal life. Matthew 19:17. When that domino falls, number 4, 2 John 1:8 through 11 tells us that if we do not hold to these teachings, we do not have God. I don't know how to make the light any brighter. Jesus has made it very bright. The Bible reveals the light from Genesis to Revelation. There is no change anywhere in the Bible to that light. Only the churches have changed it and are walking in darkness. I pray that you will get out of your church and start walking in the light as Jesus is in the light. As Jeremiah told the church people of his day to get out of their church or be destroyed, so God is calling his people out of the churches in order to be saved from the destruction that is soon to fall on them. Thank you for joining JCPM and Jesus Christ for another video Bible study.